welcome to the deep dive. If you are building a startup right now, especially, one of these companies riding the massive greenfield wave of generative AI, you know that the rules have changed. The old playbooks just aren't cutting it anymore.
They really aren't. The ones built for that mature sauce era, they don't deliver the kind of breakout velocity this generational opportunity really promises.
And it feels like we've seen this critical pivot. Buyers today, they aren't just looking for like a slight improvement.
That's absolutely right. They're shopping for a future, they're looking for new possibilities, and in that world, narrative is everything. It reigns supreme.
So if you're a founder, your positioning can't be this deferred marketing exercise anymore.
No way. As Luke Stevens just hammers home in his book, Superpositioning, defining your company's location in the market is now, it's a core strategy for survival, for alignment, and for scale. You can't delegate it.
Okay, so let's unpack this and make it really actionable for you listening. Our mission in this deep dive is to distill how you, as a founder, can move beyond just, basic competitive comparison.
And achieve what Luke calls a superposition.
A superposition. What does that actually mean?
It's not just a position, it's where your company is consistently seen as, and this is the key, super relevant, super useful, and super memorable.
And the whole approach has to be founder-led. Why is that so critical?
Because the founder holds the ultimate decision-making power. You're the one who can align the entire go-to-market operation, from marketing to sales, customer success, all around one single, clear, coherent position. You just can't outsource the definition of who you are.
What I find so fascinating about this framework, and where it really goes beyond just another business book, is its foundation. It's not based on cliches.
Not at all. It's rooted in the fundamental mechanics of human attention. It's rooted in neuroscience.
So the argument is, if we can understand how a buyer actually pays attention, we can untangle that knot of modern B2B positioning.
Exactly. Because building a billion-dollar company, it requires a much more deliberate strategic methodology than just, anecdotes and best guesses.
Right. These generational opportunities are like lightning in a bottle.
Indeed. And you need a system to make sure you're capturing that lightning, not just, confusing the market and letting it slip away.
Yeah. Okay, let's dive into the core concept here, because for years, founders have been caught in this dilemma, right? Do I go big, try to create a whole new category, or do I go super niche, laser focus on a tight ICP?
And Luke Stevens argues you have to do both. And the framework for how to do both comes directly from how the brain works.
Okay, break that down.
So he uses Dr. Ian McGilchrist's work on the hierarchy of attention as the bedrock. And forget that old pop psychology, left brain, right brain stuff. This is about two distinct modes of attention that are constantly interacting.
Two modes. Okay, so what does that mean for, like, a stressed out buyer who's just landed on my homepage?
Think of it like this. The right hemisphere, or RH, that's your radar, it operates with a really broad, open awareness. It's scanning the horizon for the big picture, for context, for possibility. It sees the whole forest.
Okay, the big picture, the why now.
Exactly. And then the left hemisphere, the LH, that's your laser beam. It focuses down, it takes the world apart into pieces, it categorizes and manipulates detail, and it runs the fine analysis. It sees the individual trees and the leaves on them.
So the buyer's brain is constantly cycling between, is this whole idea even worth my time? That's the radar. And is this specific product actually better than the spreadsheet I'm using right now, the laser beam?
Precisely. And the most critical insight for anyone trying to communicate, for any founder, is what's called the RLR jump. Information first comes in on the right, the radar, the global context. Then it's processed analytically on the left, the laser beam, which is all about specifics and differentiation. And then, crucially, it's reintegrated back on the right. And that reintegration, that's what forms a new whole understanding. It's what forms long-term memory.
Wow. Okay, so your positioning has to guide the prospect through that entire loop. You can't just hit them with a feature list.
You can't. You have to appeal to the visionary, contextual part of the brain before you earn the right to talk about your specific features.
That makes so much sense. So how do we map positioning strategy onto this attention framework?
Well, the framework gives you three simple prongs that completely resolve that go big or go niche tension.
Okay, what are they?
Number one is broad attention. This is the RH, the radar. This is your strategic narrative, your category creation effort. It's about the big vision, the wave, the change story. This is your mandate to go bigger.
To establish relevance.
To establish relevance. Number two is narrow attention. That's the LH, the laser beam. This is your competitive positioning, the deep dive into the job to be done, the direct differentiation. This is your mandate to go narrower,
To prove you're useful.
to prove you're insanely useful. And then number three is memory. This is the full RLR loop. It's the final integration. It's the brand hook, the association that sticks. This is what allows you to go broader in reach, turning your specific solution into a known market concept.
So the confusion is resolved because you have to master both. You need the broad and the narrow, and you have to make sure they integrate into something memorable.
Yes. And that structure translates directly into three fundamental stories every single founder has to be able to tell.
Okay, story number one.
Story one is the RH Radar story. It's the compelling change story. It proves there's a new wave of value out there, often driven by tech like AI, that makes the old way of doing things obsolete. This is how you get known.
In story two, the laser beam.
That's the compelling differentiation story. It's the surgical specificity of who you serve, what job you do for them, and why your solution is uniquely, demonstrably better than any alternative. This is how you get chosen.
And the final piece, the hook.
Right. The successful RLR loop results in the mimetic hook. That distinctive, sticky message that's simple enough to travel by word of mouth. It's information packets with attitude. This is how you get remembered.
That's the holy grail, isn't it? We're not just selling software. We're trying to write a memory to the buyer's mental hard drive so that when the need comes up.
The search path leads directly to you. Need expense reporting.
Think Expensify.
Exactly. That automatic association, that is the superposition. And the faster you can form that association, the less you have to sell because the market has already done the positioning work for you.
So Luke gives us a quick diagnostic test for this, right?
Yeah.
For every founder listening.
He does. And you should take a moment and really try to answer these three questions.
Okay, question one. Why should a buyer pick the category of solutions you're in? What's the wave you're riding? That's your story one.
Question two, why should they pick your solution over every single alternative, including just doing nothing? That's your story two.
And question three, what is the single simple message, the mimetic hook, that they should remember and associate with you?
Answering all three with clarity, that's what separates a real position from just a vague hope.
Okay, so that brings us from the theory of attention to the first real hands-on exercise in the book, strategic specifics. And the core idea here is that specificity creates a hook.
Exactly. Vague claims just slide right off the buyer's mind. But a specific, concrete claim, that gets lodged in there.
But it has to be strategic specifics, not just, any random detail.
Right. We need to be specific about our strategy, not just our product features. We want the buyer to feel the magnitude and the proximity of the value you offer. The analogy he uses is great.
The doctor analogy.
Yeah. If a doctor tells you you have a risk of cancer someday, you might, vaguely change your diet. But if the doctor says, we found a specific, measurable stage 2 tumor right here, you act immediately.
That's the level of urgency we're trying to create with our value prop.
That's it. And we have to avoid focusing on internal specifics, like we're mission-driven. Unless those directly translate into tangible customer value, we're gathering the ingredients that make us super relevant, super useful, and super memorable.
Okay, so let's run through the three prongs again to gather these strategic specifics, starting with what's super relevant.
Okay, so narrative specifics. This targets the right hemisphere radar, your story one. The goal is to tap into a change that's happening outside your company. This is the wave.
For an AI founder, the wave is pretty obvious, right? Generative AI. But that's not specific enough.
Not even close. The specificity is in how you are riding that wave. And Luke organizes this into three focus areas: technology, tools, and transformation.
Let's start with technology. How does an AI founder get more specific than just saying, we use LLMs?
So technology has to focus on the second-order effects. You have to articulate with clarity what this new tech makes possible now that was impossible before. It's not we use AI for drafting. It's AI now automates the entire legal discovery process, cutting human review time by 90%.
Or maybe it's how AI makes an old category new.
The specificity is in the consequence of the technology.
Okay, next up is tools. This is about unique capabilities.
This is where you detail your innovation at the application layer. What specific, unique capability leads to measurable outcomes for a niche industry or role? Think about Superhuman in the early days. Their tool was a 10x experience, but it was focused only on people who live in their inbox.
Not just better email. It was a whole new workflow for a specific type of person.
Right. You have to be the only solution for a highly specific job.
And finally, transformation. This is the big picture change.
Yeah. Can you name a new, relevant, transformation, like from static reporting to predictive operations management? Or, and this is critical, are you championing an emerging role?
What do you mean by that?
Well, every startup riding a big wave has to decide. Are we enabling existing roles like sales reps, or are we helping to create new ones like AI prompt engineers or GTM engineers? If you can name and define that emerging role, you capture the whole story one narrative around that role's importance.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, so for everyone listening, assess your own approach right now. Which of those three drivers, tech, tool, or transformation, are you really emphasizing? Write it down, and then give it a specificity score from 1 to 5. A 5 means it's already validated, you've got customer case studies, it's killing it. Positioning specifics. What's super useful?
Okay, now we shift. We go from the radar, which is relevance, to the laser beam, which is usefulness. Once the buyer agrees the Waze is real,
Story 1 is accepted.
they immediately shift to asking, okay, but why your specific solution? This is story 2. And to overcome that massive pain of change, you have to demonstrate insane usefulness.
Which means getting super specific about the alternatives. And alternatives aren't just your direct competitors.
No, it's manual processes, it's spreadsheets, internal tools, the old way of doing things. And Luke outlines 5 basic specifics you have to master to focus that laser beam.
Let's run through them.
First, who? Your customers. You have to define your ICP and the fastest growing segment inside it. Is it mid-market tech companies? Or is it mid-market tech companies who just raised a Series B and are scaling their GTM team?
More specific is better.
Always. Second, what? The use case or the job to be done. What exactly are they hiring your product to do? It has to be tangible.
The third, when. The triggers.
The category entry points. What event triggers the buying motion? A new VP gets hired, a funding round closes, a regulatory change. If you know the trigger, you know when to show up.
Fourth, how. The current alternatives.
Yeah. You need to know exactly what you're displacing. Are they running reports manually in Excel? Are they using some 10-year-old on-premise solution? You have to know the pain.
And finally, number 5, why. The difference.
The magnitude of the outcome. This is the most critical part. Is the result 10x faster? Is it 50% cheaper? Is it fundamentally de-risked? If the magnitude isn't significant, the pain of change will always win.
That spellbook example from the book is so good because it nails this. Transactional lawyers replace manual process and achieve 10x faster drafting and reviewing contracts. It's got the who, the what, and the why, the magnitude, all in one punch.
And how you achieve that difference, that's your competitive strategy. You have to choose one specific approach.
Okay, can you walk us through those strategies? What are the options?
For sure. First, there's the wedge. This is an ultra niche focus. You find a crack in the market and you jam yourself into it. You're not doing general fintech. You're doing tax reporting for crypto investment firms in California.
Super specific.
Then there's attribute. You go all in on one compelling attribute. Intelligence, security, speed, collaboration. For an AI founder, this might be leaning so heavily into intelligence that you become the only choice for high-stakes decision support.
Okay, what else?
Proximity. This means you just understand the customer's job to be done better than anyone else. You are positioned closest to their actual workflow. Linear is a great example of this, building for the workflow of a modern engineering team, not some sprawling enterprise.
I like the next one, weirdness.
Yeah, this is when you double down on a surprising user innovation you spotted. It might be counterintuitive, but it delivers massive value.
And the last one is sameness, which sounds wrong.
It sounds wrong, but sometimes the strategy is simply to compete against a huge incumbent by being the same, but just better. More modern, easier to use. You're the modern alternative to X. It's still a form of differentiation against legacy pain.
Okay, so that's your story too, the y-axis of comparison. Founders, which of these strategies best describes your most successful GTM motion right now? Write down that positioning statement and give it a specificity score, 1 to 5. Brand specifics. What's super memorable?
So the final prong is the brand specifics. This is the residual memory, the low-res takeaway. This is the whole point of the RLR loop. Hear X, think Y. This is the mimetic hook.
And this is where that tension often comes up, right? Between the GTM team and the founders.
Unnecessary tension, yeah. GTM is always pulling towards the niche to hit their numbers. Founders are intuitively pulling towards reach for the biggest possible outcome.
And true brand building is about managing that transition.
It's about switching from niche to reach after you have product market fit. You have to be deliberate about what memory you're trying to build.
So the key is to define that name-meet association now. Like, are you associated with real-time editing or asynchronous communication? Very different brand specifics.
So your strategic question is this. What's the next move for your brand? Do you need to get more niche to build momentum? Or is it time to expand, reach outwards, go upmarket, go into adjacent niches? You have to be specific about the destination. Now, score your brand positioning strategy from 1 to 5. A 5 means people already associate your brand with your chosen need without you having to explain it.
Okay, so now we tally it up. We have the strategic specific score, maximum of 15 points. What does the score tell us?
If you scored a 15, you have excellent ingredients. You are very likely a super positioner already. You're nailing the broad story 1 vision and the narrow story 2 validation.
If you're closer to 10,
You've got serious strengths in 1 or 2 areas. You need to double down on those and fix the weak link. If you're at 5 or less, you need to, frankly, get much more specific about at least one of these prongs.
the book also has that great diagnostic tool, the personality 2x2.
Yeah, based on vision versus validation. It helps you diagnose your company's natural tendencies. If you're strong on story 1 vision but weak on story 2 validation, you don't have clear customer proof, you're a visionary.
Big idea, but maybe a solution looking for a problem.
Potentially.
Eh.
If you're the opposite, great at understanding the customer's specific problem, but you struggle to articulate a big new vision, you're an operator. You solve problems brilliantly, but you might lack that narrative pull.
And if you lack both, you're an early drifter, still searching.
And when you layer your brand ambition on top of this, niche versus reach, you can really define your strategy. The diagnostic forces a really honest conversation about your company's strategic character.
The most important takeaway here, though, regardless of your score, is compounding choices. This is the opposite of silver bullet thinking.
It is not about finding one perfect headline. The power comes from that deliberate alignment. You look at Notion's strong story 1 vision, clear story 2 pitch for small teams, distinctive brand, they brought all 3 together.
And that alignment is what creates the superposition. Which brings us perfectly to the next step. How do you organize all these inputs into a coherent story that everyone can get behind? So we move from gathering the raw ingredients to achieving alignment. The strategic narrative is the backbone for this. It takes all your specifics and organizes them into a structured story.
A story that employees, investors, and most importantly, customers can rally around. It's the story you use to sell the strategy.
And it's important to understand what this is not. It's not just an internal memo.
Right. A memo is just descriptive, and it's not a tailored sales pitch either. The narrative is the fundamental architecture that dictates all your GTM content and sales training. It has to articulate the big ideas using that full RLR attention pattern, the core job of the narrative. And the foundational job of any good narrative is to drive behavior change. We always quote Stuart Butterfield from Slack on this. True innovation is measured by a change in human behavior.
Right. When he wrote that famous "We don't sell saddles here" memo, he wasn't selling chat features. He was selling a higher order outcome. Less information overload, more transparency.
Exactly. And founders have to sell that transformation, that outcome, not just a list of features. The narrative has to structure that story of behavior change by following the RLR jump. Global context, narrow specifics, to new whole.
And founders also have to make a key framing choice for their narrative. Is it primarily about a new way to understand the world?
A story 1 focus, a market insight. Think of Zora defining the subscription economy. Or is it primarily about a new way to manipulate the world?
A story 2 focus, a product insight, like Snowflake, proving they could manage data bigger and faster.
That framing choice dictates everything. If you're a deep tech AI lab, you might need a heavy story 1 focus to just educate the market on what's now possible. But if you're a vertical SaaS tool, you might jump straight to your product's superiority because the market already gets the context.
So before we get to the slides, let's challenge our founders again. Which framing is right for your primary buyer? Are you speaking to the executive's radar or the practitioner's laser? The 10-slide strategic narrative outline.
Okay, so this 10-slide structure is designed to capture that RLR journey. It's the scaffolding for any big founder-led presentation.
Let's start with slide 1, intro and positioning, BLUF. Bottom line up front, the hook, the micro pitch. Luke says this is the hardest slide to write.
It is because it demands total clarity. Category, ICP, value.
Slide 2, macro trends context. This is the beginning of the R. Story 1 context, what's the big shift?
And for AI founders, you have to go beyond AI exists. You need to focus on the inciting incident. What makes the buyer realize their current methods are now fatally flawed? That's what drives the need for change.
Slide 3, the need insight bridge. You can't just leap from The world is changing to buy our product.
You need a bridge. You have to connect that macro context to the prospect's acute day-to-day reality. The goal here is empathy. It's making them feel, wow, I hadn't thought about my problem in that way before.
Slide 4. The challenge, why does this problem still exist?
This is where you demonstrate deep customer vision. Give 3 practical reasons why the status quo keeps failing them. And a crucial point here. B2B buyers fear messing up more than they fear missing out.
So you're not trying to scare them.
No. You are confidently providing a shared understanding of a solvable challenge. You're building their confidence that you get their world.
Slide 5. The status quo alternatives. The Goldilocks slide.
Right. You show why the other solutions are all wrong. The manual processes, the outdated tools, the closest competitor. You bucket them into categories so you can make your solutions stand alone without getting into a feature-by-feature dogfight.
Slide 6. The opportunity, how they succeed. T's success. This is where you put the positive future back on their radar.
It's the vision of the promised land. Use aspirational language. Wouldn't it be great if you're building confidence with a carrot, not a stick?
Slide 7. The product. The reveal. Finally, the big moment.
This is where you relieve all the tension you've built. We transition from the story 1 context to the story 2 specifics. This is the L in RLR. The product is the perfectly engineered solution for the exact problem you just defined.
Slide 8. The product pillars. The how. Now you show how it actually works.
You detail the major components, but you have to link the features directly back to the value and outcomes you promised on slide 6. And high-performing founders use this slide to preempt objections head on.
Slide 9. The impact. Ladder up. This is so critical for any complex B2B sale.
You have to ladder the value. You go from the micro outcome for the end user to the team outcome, all the way up to the macro outcome for the company's P&L.
And finally, slide 10. The result outcome, new hole.
This is the final R jump, the integration. You tie everything back to the initial hook and you lay out the successful future. And this slide has to be a real blueprint that your customer success team can actually execute. That successful outcome is what drives word of mouth.
That structure is so powerful because it guarantees the big vision is never disconnected from the practical utility. It satisfies both modes of attention.
And of course, the narrative has to be flexible. You have to tailor it to the audience.
So for an executive pitch, you lean heavy on story 1.
It's high level. It's focused on that secular change, the pain. You're providing market intelligence that makes the executive look smart.
But for a mid-market sale, it's different. It's the positioning headshot.
Exactly. The seller might start with a specific story 1 insight for that segment to get agreement on the problem, but they immediately lock on with a tight, product-driven story 2 solution. The insight opens the door, the specificity closes the deal.
And this all comes back to the importance of personal value. That Gartner research is stunning. That personal value has double the impact of generic business value.
Double. Things like simplifying my job, making me more confident, boosting my reputation. And AI founders have to internalize this.
Your pitch has to translate business value into positive personal value.
You have to turn your users into hyper-productive badasses, make them heroes inside their company.
Okay, we've reached the final exercise, turning all that strategic consensus into crisp, customer-facing outputs. And the homepage is the most critical battlefield.
It really is. And if the narrative was about alignment and relevance, your story 1, the homepage, has to be relentlessly story 2 dominant. It has to be about usefulness, clarity, and differentiation.
And you are communicating under these insane constraints. You have, what, 30 seconds? Maybe 10 scrolls?
At best. Buyers just need you to say what the dang product is and does in the clearest possible terms.
So that first scroll, the hero section, has to answer those critical questions immediately. What is it? What does it do? Who is it for? And what's the most important value?
If any of those are vague, you've lost them. The laser beam has already moved on.
Let's run the specificity test with those 2 examples from the book. The 2 AI meeting startups.
Right. On one hand, you have the broad, visionary approach, Cluely, invisible AI that thinks for you. And on the other, you have the specific, useful approach, Granola, the AI notepad for people in back-to-back meetings.
And Granola just wins. It's not even a contest.
It wins massively on messaging specificity because it immediately tells you the WHO and the what, Closeness wins. The founder who is closer to the customer's actual daily pain point, that back-to-back meeting grind, will always get the click over the one making vague promises.
Now, you can argue Cluely had a different strategy.
You could. And Luke notes this. Maybe they focused on viral GTM to override the vague messaging. But for 99% of founders who rely on inbound and sales velocity, you need guerrilla specificity. Closeness wins. The homepage messaging checklist.
Okay, to make sure the usefulness is just brutally executed, the book provides an 11-point checklist for auditing your homepage. Let's hit the most important ones.
Number 1, does it specifically state what the product is and does? No fluff like maximize human potential. Be concrete.
Number 2, does it state why readers should choose you over alternatives? And that includes the status quo.
Number 3, does it match your GTM motion? A PLG product needs to push you into a trial. A sales-led product needs to explain complex value to qualify the lead.
Okay, what else?
Does the hero capture the BLUF value prop? It has to be the culmination of the strategic hook you worked on. Does it visually represent the product? People need to see the software, not stock photos.
Does it capture a single validated key reason to buy? The hook.
Yes. And does it connect that value prop to the product flow? A simple 3-step how it works is great for this. Does it use before-after language?
Do the testimonials actually reinforce your core message? They can't just say it's great.
Right, they have to echo your specific value prop. And then finally, is there a clear high-stakes CTA like a demo? And is there a secondary lower-stakes CTA for people who aren't ready to commit yet?
That checklist is so useful because it forces you to confront the strategic choices you made earlier. If you were vague in your narrative, your homepage is going to be a mess.
And that homepage diagnostic reveals a really crucial truth. Tweaking copy, just wordsmithing, is not positioning. Copy tests only move the needle if they provide new information or provide clarity.
If the underlying strategic position is weak, no amount of A/B testing headlines is going to fix it.
Never. Clarity always wins.
So once you've reached that consensus on the homepage, there's one last crucial step: the brand messaging document.
This is the absolute reference sheet, the source of truth. It captures all the key messaging themes from your narrative and your live assets. It locks in consistency across the entire GTM team. Sales, marketing, product marketing, everyone has to be using the same language.
Because without that discipline, all this careful strategic work just decays.
It decays within 6 months because of internal inconsistency, and that decay is the enemy of superpositioning. If you're trying to build a specific location in the buyer's mind, your entire operation has to deliver a sustained, consistent, identical message for years to cement that position.
We've covered a ton of ground today. We've gone from the fundamental science of human attention all the way through the 3 core exercises you need to build a superposition.
We started with strategic specifics to gather those relevant, useful, and memorable inputs.
Then we moved to the strategic narrative to drive alignment, using that 10-slide RLR structure to satisfy both the radar and the laser beam.
And we finished with strategic messaging to make sure all that clarity and usefulness is perfectly executed on your most critical customer-facing assets like the homepage.
The big takeaway here is that superpositioning is an anti-silver bullet approach.
It is. It's achieved through the compounding choices you make, bringing story 1, story 2, and your brand together into a unified, compelling whole. It requires relentless discipline.
Okay, so here's where this gets really interesting, especially for you founders who are navigating the AI landscape. We know LLMs can draft copy, they can write sales emails, they can produce messaging frameworks. Can AI just automate positioning for us?
It can automate the form. You can use an LLM to feed a framework or generate some generic suggestions or help you structure your 10-slide deck. You can use it to prompt you, but an LLM is, at its core, a lossy encyclopedia.
It can only generate outputs based on existing patterns.
Exactly, which means it cannot automate the seeing.
The seeing.
Yes. It cannot provide the unique out-of-distribution insight about your specific customer pain. It can't generate the counterintuitive innovation in your product that drives a true superposition, that unique vision.
So the framework guides the execution.
But only you can provide the core insight. That remains your core, irreplaceable job.
That is a phenomenal thought to end on. Your unique, validated insight is the ultimate, non-automatable competitive advantage. So for everyone listening, grab a pen right now. Apply that strategic specific score to your startup and identify your current positioning personality. Are you a visionary, an operator, or are you ready to become a super positioner? The critical work starts now.